Hello Chipsters, number 2 video this morning. Let me put the old reading bins on. Here we go. There you are. I keep doing this every time. I think it's funny. I've been attempting, and attempting is really probably the best word I can describe my the way I've been working on them. To solder metal. I use metal paper clips. Now this is one that I've used previously to hold, like, say, a 28mm figure or a 1 in 35 scale figure. If I want to paint them, I open one of these large scale paper clips up and I use that as the handle piece. And but then I use the odd ones when I've taken them out. As you can see, the paint on this one, just to open up dry bottles of acrylic paint. But this is what I make my swords and my poles for the colours, so flags and bayonets from. I've got one of these. I've got different tools to put on my Dremel. I'm trying to think of the blooming word for it now. Rotary tools, anyway. And I flatten the. I cut these off to a slightly longer than I need. I tend to put them in a pin vise to hold them. So I think that works quite well, and I'll go so far with the rotary tool and then use a diamond metal sanding file is the word I was after, just to complete it, give it a point, flatten it out a bit more. Now, when I've done the cavalry before, which are going to get a video in the next day or two, I drill into the hand where the basket of the sword hilt is, and I just pop. I make a small file off the end to make it smaller with the Dremel, and then just pop them in and super glue them. And I think that's fine for that. But I will guarantee you, trying to super glue bayonets on, they're gonna. You know what super glue's like. It's great for holding stuff, especially photo etch on your fingertips and stuff, which I have on a regular basis. But on something like wargaming figures that are being handled and moved, although I would normally myself personally hold the base rather than the figures, but what I'm saying is that they're going to get knocked, and they're fragile. Super glue is fragile. You've only got to flick them like that, and they'll just fly off. So the option for me was to solder them, and I know people do it because that's what gave me the idea of doing them. However, I've not soldered before, and I've had problems. It could just my ineptness. I can't tell you what this gauge of solder wire is. It's got no flux in. I've been using probably 15-year-old flux as well, that I've found in my shed, and I don't know what this one came with. It's one of these cheap Chinese. I'm going to show you in a minute. Soldering irons. But I also bought some other solder as well, and I've just sent off the other day when I was having problems with this for something supposed to be like softer melting point. So this little one, it comes with about 5 attachments, different. This is like the second size up. I found the little tiny one wasn't getting enough heat to the tip, and even this, it seems to have more heat further up than it does further down, which is what I'm having the problem is, as I'm touching it on this, instead of it pooling into a nice silver, like quicksilver type stuff, it's literally spalling it, which has been great for making little 18mm cannonballs. I've got a whole collection of them now, but it's not been great for building up on the figures, which I'll show you in a minute. So this says, it's in Celsius, it goes from 200 to 450, and I've got it on 400 at the moment, and it's a 220 volt 60 watt. Now I don't know if that is enough to do the figures. Now I don't want them much bigger. I didn't really want anything bigger than this, really, because I thought I've half melted muskets from time to time as it is. I really, if you get anything too hefty, I'm just going to obliterate figures. and these are expensive figures. I was going to start practicing, and I did do a couple on some of the older ABs that a gentleman gave me years and years ago. But I thought, well, yes, I'm practicing on those, but I still don't want to wreck them. I might as well just bite the bullet and go with the figures, the Prussians that I'm working on, because otherwise I'm going to spend 8 hours and hours on those and really getting nothing done on the Prussian infantry, which I wanted up next. So we'll take a look. I'll spin the camera around and take a look. As I say, so is that what, after you see the scale of the figures and where I'm putting the solder, if anybody's got any suggestions, decent ones. The wife did have one where I could put this soldering iron. I didn't really want to go that way. Yeah, so it's a 220 volt, say 60 watt soldering iron. It's only a cheap thing, as I say, you know, as they always are from China. It's, you know, you get your stand, your little sponge thing you get one of these, and, you know, just cheap stuff they throw in really that you probably never use, tweezers and stuff. Anyway, let's go down and take a look at the soldiers. If you can hear the fan on the computer and everything, I do apologise. It's an old laptop, and at the moment I'm uploading a giant ramble video. Now, this is the white metal bayonet, which is perfectly fine. The problem is you do get with a lot of these AB bayonets. AB, by the way, is these are through Eureka, which is an Australian company now, but they originally were made and sold through by Anthony Barton, and they're always known as AB. Well, he was AB Miniatures, or is, I'm not sure. But so I get often asked, what's an AB Napoleonic? It's just a brand. It's what we that paint these figures call them. That's the white metal bayonet. I would normally file it to a point slightly more and just finesse it a bit. The problem is I don't particularly want to snap this one off really, but that's quite firm. I've got several broken ones in the bag when it arrived. Obviously they'll just get chucked in bags, or baggies, whatever you want to call them, and they're so brittle that they'll often break off halfway or break off at the musket. I've seen a couple of people solder on the metal ones, and I thought, well, if I'm doing metal swords for the cavalry, I might as well go the whole hog and do the bayonets. Now, before we'll go with the bayonets now. So this one, as you can see by the blackened, he's been quite close to come on, show blackened. He's been quite close to getting mullered, and as you can see, there's a fair old chunk of solder on that one. Now, there's no rhyme or reason with my soldering. You can see actually where his pom-pom's been filed flat, as I've tried to get as much of that rounded as possible. There's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I can hit it on the spot because this just isn't melting really quickly. Sorry about the grubby fingernails. It's not melting really quickly. As I say, it tends to spool, and just you literally press the tip of the soldering iron onto the solder, and it just rounds off in a ball half the time. It takes ages of trying to wipe it up and down the metal paperclip to get enough heat for it to melt, and then you either end up with a giant blob or it doesn't. Sometimes I've been working, I mean, the other night when I was doing, I only had about 6 bayonets left to do. It's taken me about 3 nights to do this lot, and I had 2. They were the last 2 actually. Sorry, 3. One. The first one out the 3, it wasn't so much that the solder was again pooling nicely. It was just, it happened to, when I finally got it, it just hit the sweet spot, and it didn't look too bad. And I had 2 where they were constantly coming off, and I was having to refile them, more flux on, start again. I know it's a learning curve. Oh, by the way, I didn't show it earlier. I used one of these. These, if you're going to do this, these are brilliant. Not so much bothered about the magnifying glass, but they will really hold them in place. bayonet goes in that one, figure goes in that one, and it really does the job of £6, so it's not going to break the bank if you want to go down this road. So yeah, we'll have a look at it. There's one small bayonet. They were longer than this, but if you can see, some are looking better than others. I'm going to drill a small hole in the top of those for the musket barrel, I think. Might as well go the whole hog. As I say, this one actually has gone really nicely. Well, more or less. There's a bit of a... Alright, none of them look particularly great, but some look better than others. And it's the first time, as I say, wasn't expecting greatness. I think I'm going to paint these as the 23rd, because I've got the colours for them. Always amazing me with Prussian, see British units, the colours, i.e. the flags, represent the same colour cuffs as the regiment. So part of my old regiment, the oldest part, the 38th of foot, have yellow, so their colour is yellow, and then obviously the Union flag at the side of it. Whereas the Prussians, these guys have got like I believe they're a red, a wine red, might be wrong, a wine red frontage, epaulets and cuffs and stuff. But the flags are the colours are actually green and white, and these have two colours. A lot of the German units will often have one, but the Prussians have two. They have a regimental colour which they call the retreat flag, and that marches, I'm not sure if it's in the 3rd rank, but obviously as I'm just doing 4 bases of 8 figures on a base, I will probably put the regimental flag on the rear rank of the 2 ranks, and then they have the colonel's flag in the front rank. I can't remember the German words for them, but I did have these filed down a lot better, but my bayonets are way too long. They're about as long as a bloke's leg, so I ended up having to gingerly clip them off. But that one hasn't gone on too bad. Well, okay, at certain angles they don't look too bad. I'm hoping maybe with a bit of paint, and because the sockets need to be fairly round and chunky anyway, but not as chunky as I've probably got them. But I found if I put less on, they were snapping off almost as if I'd put CA glue on them. So super glue, you know. So yeah, I'm just wondering if is that the right size, power, wattage, whatever, for doing what I want to do on them. I've also put, he's a colour bearer. Now that's I could do. I'm gonna have to bite the bullet. I think on the next unit I'm gonna have to buy some wire rather than I get these paper clips. They're cheap, you know what I mean. You get a box, it lasts me ages, and I use them for just about everything. As I say, holding figures. Now I'm using them for bayonets, swords. But I've always used them for these poles. But it could probably do with an extra couple of 3mm longer, really. But that's as much as I can get. I have got this florist wire, but it's too soft to use for this type of stuff. It'll bend too easy. But I've used it and super glued it on for German NCOs carry a cane. That goes back to Roman times. For the Optios that used to carry a cane, I believe. So I just cut a bit. I removed the white metal one because I was having to drill down through and I was doing too much damage, so I cut it off and put a fresh one on. But yeah, that could probably do, and I have flattened it out. It depends on which side you look at it. That is just like a spear point. Now the problem I'm going to have with these guys, I'm actually using one as the other standard bearer, but is this these are the sergeants, and like the British they carry like a spittoon, and they would use that. One, it shows them as NCO, but it also you brace they literally put it out into the side if the troops are wavering, and they push them back in line and stuff. You can see he's got carrying his cane there. as well. So I'll replace that with a metal pole, but I'm debating whether I snip that off. I might just keep the white metal, but try and, oh, it's going to be fun, try and solder it, because I don't want to super glue it, because it's just never going to stick properly. Let's see if I can solder that onto a metal pole. Otherwise I've got to cut a piece of, I've got some old scrap like photo etch and stuff, I could maybe cut one out, but I've got about 4 of those to do, because I like a lot of the, you know, it's almost like they were companies, so I like to put a lot of NCOs in my ranks. It's not very often I get to do my own figures, so I've got in here, I've got a load of light infantry company, as you can see there. So, and officers, I do an officer on each one as well, and a drummer, so that's why there's only a certain amount of musketeers. Right, so that's it really. Just wanted to show me soldering skills off. I've got one smaller bayonet, which you can't really see, but he's stopping on there now. That was one of the first ones I did and cut it down too much, but oh, as I say, for a first attempt they're not too bad. I've demolded the figures already. As I say, I've just got to get these, work out how I'm going to get these guys done. I've got about, say, 4 of them to do. One I'm gonna make a colour bearer, I think, and the others I'm just going to be normally carrying the spittoon type of thing. So yeah, they're the ones I've got to worry about, because the others I just have to do another point to the staff there. Whereas these guys, as I say, I've either got to solder that on. The problem is I can't have a giant lump of solder like this. It doesn't, on the muskets you can get away with it because they have got that rounded socket, but on this, that'll be interesting. Right guys, thanks for joining me. These are AB miniatures, they're 18mm, obviously white metal, mixture of, is it tin and other stuff. They're for my own project. They're 1806 Prussians, so they've still got obviously the bicorn, not the shako you see later on. These again for guys that don't follow it really, but I fancy doing the 1806 period, and I'm planning to do Prussians, Saxons and French. You know, lifelong project really. So I'll be doing probably, let me see, probably about 6 infantry units, 2 or 3 cavalry units of Prussians, you know, battery or 2, command figures, and that'll be the Prussians done for that section. I might do some French next, just to do a bit of a difference, and then do some Saxons, fought alongside the Prussians in that period, and then when that's done, go back and do some more Prussians. so thanks for stopping by and taking a look. I'm much appreciated, waffling on as always, and we'll catch each other soon on another video.